time for Overtime.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
In the world of sports, it's all about the playmakers in today's headlines, from locals to the pros, with interviews from local standouts and sports all-stars across the country that will have you talking.
Here we go.
And the punt is blocked. It's free.
Hear from coaches to players, sports analysts, and broadcasters who are a part of the action every day. Overtime, now on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
It is Friday, and we are off and running. You are in the right place. Congratulations. Tuned in to Overtime on a Friday. An opportunity to win big each and every week looms on your Friday, not only with the High Noon Showdown, but with the Friday Parlay. You guys know me. I would not lead you astray in saying that today is a huge day in terms of prizes on the show. We got the Friday Parlay, which within that Friday Parlay prize pack is not 2, not 4, but 8 total Minnesota Twins tickets. It's a weekend pass, if you will, out to Target Field. 4 tickets for Saturday, 4 tickets for Sunday for an upcoming home contest. Pair of contests for Minnesota could be yours with a victory in the Friday Parlay this week. And on today's show, the High Noon Showdown. We've got a 4-pack of LFA MMA tickets coming up for next Friday's event. Of course, a great gift certificate to up your grill game with the all-new Uncle Ed Specialty Meats out there on the east side. We got it all for you today as we crank it up and get it rolling on this Friday edition of Overtime. I'm, as always, your host, Bert Rameen. Track me down anytime before, during, or after the show, except probably next Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll be glued, adhered to my couch, if you will. Don't bother me. I'm soaking in the NFL draft. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, sporting events on the calendar. Yes, I know I'm a nerd, and no, I don't feel too bad about that. NFL draft looms just under a week away. Next Thursday from Detroit. Friday, same place, and Saturday, rounds 4 through 7 conclude the 2024 NFL Draft. On today's show, college sports news, we got a lot for you. Marquee transfers, Wisconsin basketball absolutely up against it. Do they have anyone coming back for next year's team in Madison? We'll talk about that, including a landing spot for one of their transfers. And UConn, that whole purge from the national championship team has started. Got a couple players as of today announcing pro intentions. Of course, Donovan Clingan did so last week, but 2 other individuals had said, hey, so long, at least I hope to say so long to the NBA draft. Testing the waters. We'll let you know the latest there and the latest on the troubling situation out in Boulder, Colorado. Coach Prime, Shedeur Sanders, and everyone out there in that program dealing with all sorts of transfers out. Not so many transfers in this year. How concerned are the Buffs as a program right now, and how concerned should they be in regards to what some would deem an exodus from the program right now in this open transfer portal period? We'll change gears a little bit, be talking Major League Baseball, college baseball with one of our favorites midway through this hour. 11:30-ish, we'll be talking with Wayne McDonnell Jr. of Forbes, talking about the top teams in college baseball as that season makes their way closer and closer to Omaha. NFL latest draft previews today at the end of hour number 1, the New York Jets and the Chicago Bears, a pair of teams that need some help and might be both in the market for a quarterback in this year's NFL draft. No, that won't make Aaron Rodgers happy, but should the Jets care about the aging quarterback coming off an Achilles and his opinion on the future of the franchise? I'm not so sure. They could draft a quarterback this year. We'll tell you about that likelihood, the needs and the wants and the desires for both the Jets and the Bears in today's NFL draft previews at the end of hour number 1. Hour number 2, you'll want to tune in. The High Noon Showdown today, listener against listener as always. You got to be well-rounded if you're a sports fan here on the show. You got to know your NBA, your NFL draft trivia today for the High Noon Showdown. Also, Friday Parlay Live, 12:20-ish. I'll preview and make my picks for the NBA and NHL playoffs. NHL playoffs are set. NBA playoffs still waiting on a pair of 8 seeds to be finalized, but I'm not taking any of those teams in the first round. If it tells you my confidence in the 1 seeds right now on both sides, I'll give you my picks for the NBA, the NHL, a toe dip into the odds as well as they change day to day to day. We'll talk all about the NBA, NHL playoffs around 12:30 and send you packing with some good, some bad, and some ugly with the latest and greatest in the good, bad, and the ugly in the sports world to round out today's show. NHL regular season came to a close last night, as was the story of the Chicago Blackhawks season. Some bright spots, some low spots, and ultimately just not good enough this year in a loss to the Kings in overtime.
And off the draw, Kempe quickly moves in. Kempe shoots and scores! That's the way to end the regular season. Overtime goal. Adrian Kempe. 6 seconds in. Kings win it. 5-4.
LA on the way to the postseason. Chicago sent packing for the remainder of the season. Regular season final for Chicago. Very much a team that is in develop mode. 23-53-6 the overall record. Kings again on to the postseason. Seattle and Minnesota tussled last night from St. Paul, and it was a season-ending loss for the Minnesota Wild. 4-3 the final. Kraken get the win. Final record for Minnesota this year, 39-33-10. Other finals, Winnipeg and Vancouver, 2 teams on their way to the postseason. It was the Jets over the Canucks, 4-2. 52-24-6 the new record for Winnipeg to finalize the season. And the Colorado Avalanche didn't play in a close game last night. They dominate Edmonton 5-1.
Walker has it back. Josh Manson, will he let it ride? He sure does. Tipped and they score! Hey, Mambo Cagliano. His first goal in 21 games.
Never ceases to amaze me, the call there, courtesy of KKSC. Hey, Mambo, love it there. Playoffs begin on Saturday. Islanders at Canes, 4 o'clock on TBS. Maple Leafs at Bruins, 7 o'clock on TBS. Just a pair of games going on Saturday. Sunday, here's your lineup. Lightning at Panthers, Capitals at Rangers, Avalanche at Jets, Predators at Canucks. Those range from 11:30 a.m. till 9 o'clock p.m. start times. All of those on the ESPN family of networks, either ESPN or on ESPN2. Big news in the hockey world that is off the ice, not concerning the playoffs or the end of the regular season. It's the end of an era out in the desert for the Arizona Coyotes. Commissioner Gary Bettman commenting, saying, "We did everything we could to help out in Arizona."
I think it can't be said that we haven't tried everything and that we haven't been supportive to hockey in Arizona. The Coyotes have had lots of peaks and valleys. We, as a league, even owned the team for a period of time. But just at this point in time, we felt it just wasn't realistic to continue with the uncertainty and perhaps another 5 years in a college rink.
And it's going to be Salt Lake City now for the future of the Arizona Coyotes NHL franchise. It has been sold to new ownership, new location. We'll wait and see if there's any other changes coming down the pike for the Coyotes. But for now, we will wait and see. NBA 8-seed matchups get going tonight. Eastern Conference first, Bulls at the Heat. That is a 6 o'clock start time on ESPN. Jimmy Butler, who's dinged up, says his team can and will win the game.
In order to win, we got to do what we haven't done all year on our home floor and really take care of it, really dominate. And I know the group of guys that we got, we can do it, and I know we will do it.
6 o'clock on ESPN from Miami. Heat hosting the Bulls. Later on, Western Conference 8-seed matchup, Kings at Pelicans, 8:30 on TNT. Playoffs officially start tomorrow. Magic at Cavs at noon. Suns at Timberwolves, 2:30. 76ers at Knicks at 5 o'clock. All 3 of those games viewable on ESPN. Nightcap Saturday night, do not miss. Lakers at the Nuggets from Denver, Game 1, 7:30 on ABC. Chris Canty says this will be a big deal if LeBron James can pull this off.
When you look at the Denver Nuggets, this is a buzzsaw. I mean, you're talking about a team when they have Jamal Murray, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic, when they're all in the lineup, when they all start games. I mean, this is the best starting 5 in the NBA, and they got the plus minus to prove it. If LeBron James wins this series on the way to winning a title, this will be his masterpiece. This will be the most incredible feat that he has accomplished throughout his career.
Co-sign on that completely. If LeBron James not only pulls off the upset of Denver, that'll be very impressive. But you got to finish the job if you want to call this a masterpiece, which Canty did include in that clip. I will say that as well. LeBron James, all sorts of great career achievements, whether it be in Cleveland, down in Miami, out in L.A., whatever you want to chalk it up to. If he finds a way to win it all this year with that team, not that it's bad, but it ain't great. And Denver is great, generationally great. All sorts of good players, depth pieces, everything you need for a title team out there in Denver. If the Lakers can compete, if the Lakers can win, and then go on to win a title, I agree. Masterclass, masterpiece for one LeBron James. One team that isn't in the postseason of the NBA this year is the Golden State Warriors. All sorts of debates up as to their future. Head coach Steve Kerr said dynasties don't tend to end quickly.
Rarely is it storybook, you know. I mean, even the 96 or 98 Bulls, you know, team was broken up and we won the championship in our last year, but there was a documentary about what a disaster the whole thing was. You guys might want to watch it, yeah. It's impossible for this stuff to end perfectly. I do think there is a lot of value, in, as I just said to Tim, in you know, our three guys being Warriors for life. I think there's a lot of value in ending with dignity.
Before we move on from the NBA Sunday slate, we got that 8 seed in Boston against the Celtics leading us off noon on ABC. Other matchups, Mavericks at Clippers 2:30, Pacers at Bucks 6, and that other 8 seed from the Western Conference in Oklahoma City against the Thunder 8:30 on TNT. Major League Baseball, not a ton of games yesterday. We did have a postponement of the Cubs-Marlins game that'll be made up on Saturday, but two finals of note. Texas goes into Detroit and gets a win over the Tigers.
Continues scuffling a bit. 2-2, and Garcia hits one high and deep to left center field. Green and Vierling back. They turn, they look, out of here! Adolis Garcia leaves the yard, visiting his friends in the Rangers bullpen with a solo shot. And the Rangers reclaim the lead with their third home run of the game. It's 5-4.
9-7 would be the final. Audio there, KRLD. Elsewhere, the Minnesota Twins aren't off to a great start this year. Recently swept by the Baltimore Orioles. And one of the big issues with the Twins' slow start is that there's a couple teams in their division that are out to really good starts. One of those teams, Cleveland, who kept it up yesterday.
The pitch. Freeing swing and a line drive. Base hit into left. Ramon Laureano knocks in Tyler Freeman to make it 5-1 Cleveland.
5-4 as the Guardians would hang on to the road win over Boston. 13-6 is their record. Audio there courtesy of WTAM. AL Central standings as we gear it up for the weekend. Cleveland in the top spot, 13-6. One game back is KC at 12-7. Tigers are 3 games back at 10-9. Then you got the Minnesota Twins, 6 games back already. Negative 20 scoring margin for the Twins right now. They are 6-11 on the season. Chicago White Sox, not much of a challenge either, 3-15 to start out the campaign. Today and tonight in Major League Baseball, Marlins at the Cubs from Wrigley, 1:20. That's the only daytime game. In the afternoon and evening hours, White Sox at Phillies, A's at Guardians, Orioles at Royals. Tigers visit the Twins, 6:30 pregame, 7:10 the first pitch time right here on ESPN Sioux Falls. Brewers at Cardinals, Mariners at Rockies bring us home later on this evening. And your Minnesota Twins weekend schedule, again, 7:10 the start tonight, Saturday and Sunday. Identical start times and pregame start times here on the Twins Radio Network. 12:30 pregame, 1:10 start times in the afternoon for the Minnesota Twins and their fans on Saturday and Sunday. NFL draft officially less than 1 week away. All sorts of teams looking to leap up and take a swing on a quarterback, and Chris Canty says it's worth the risk.
Different teams have different evaluations, but different teams have different values on certain positions. But you know what everybody prioritizes as the most valuable position? The damn quarterback, regardless of the scheme. So that's why all of these teams move up. We just had an article on .com a week ago talking about why it makes sense to move up. Even if you miss on the quarterback, the value proposition, because of what the position means for the overall success of your football team, it's worth the risk.
Chris Canty this morning on Unsportsmanlike. Definitely is worth the risk. You got to risk it for the biscuit, as they say. And if you land a quarterback, a generational quarterback, the rest of the team can build around that player. But I don't care how great your team is. It's very rare that a mediocre quarterback, a non-top 10, non-top 15 quarterback in the NFL hoists up the Lombardi Trophy. One team that hasn't done that in a very long time is the Dallas Cowboys, who Mike Tannenbaum says are in the quarterback market as they gear it up for the draft.
Dallas. And here's why. I love Dak Prescott, but would you rather have Dak Prescott at $60 million a year, or would you rather have Michael Penix Jr. at $3.4 million a year? Because Deonte Banks was the 24th pick. That's what he's going to make.
Yeah.
I think Dak's a better player. I don't know if he's $56.4 million a year per year better, especially when we have bills like CD.
Hell no, he's not that much better.
Right. Especially when you have CD Lamb, Micah Parsons to pay. Like, it matters. Like, that contract, there's such value on that rookie quarterback contract.
Mike Tannenbaum obviously has been in that general manager seat. He understands the dice roll that top quarterbacks are in the draft. I understand the monetary concerns, but I'll say this on Dak Prescott. That guy is good enough to win a Super Bowl. He is. He's a top 10 quarterback in this league, and when he's at his worst, he's probably the 15th best quarterback in this league. Dak is an MVP candidate year in and year out these days. He's got great weaponry, an imaginative offense, and they do things the right way in Dallas on that offensive side. The issue is the big moments for the Cowboys. If they can find a way to engineer that team around him and win the big games and the big moments in Dallas and get to that stage, I would be anxious and curious to see how many quarterbacks are out there that are better right now than Dak Prescott, because you can't tell me that the 4th, 5th, or 6th best quarterback in this class, which many people believe Penix is, would be better right now for the Dallas Cowboys than a top 10 quarterback in Dak Prescott. I don't love Dak Prescott. I'm not gushing over his ability by any means. But I do have respect for who he is, what he's done, and what he can do in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys do not, according to their contract negotiations. But Dak Prescott, really darn good quarterback. Cowboys could be in the quarterback market if they don't value him as much as we think they do. But they surely need to pay up and pony up for a contract at some point. That's the reason we're having this debate in the first place, is that Dak and Tua and a few other guys are not getting the long-term love they deserve from their teams. Weekend sports ahead. Race on Sunday for NASCAR at Talladega. 2 o'clock broadcast time on Fox. RBC Heritage from Hilton Head Island, South Carolina continues today, tomorrow, and into Sunday on the PGA Tour. And UFL football leads off the weekend. 3 games Saturday, 1 game Sunday. All start Saturday. Showboats at Battlehawks from St. Louis, 11:30 on ABC. Let's dive into your Reliabank headlines of the day here for hour number 1. We've got a pair of spring games coming up tomorrow for our area college football programs. First things first, right here in Sioux Falls, the 2023 NSIC champion Augustana football team is set to host their annual spring game at 11 a.m. tomorrow. It's a fan-favorite event and cherished student-athlete moment, as the 2024 football captains will be unveiled at halftime of the spring game. In addition, the Augie dance team will have a halftime performance, and there's all sorts of events going on. They got the schedule listed out there. GoAugie.com for the latest on their spring game. A little further down south to Vermilion. Saturday spring game for USD Coyote football gets going. The event is free, open to the public. This gets going at 1 o'clock from the Dakota Dome. On the field, fans can expect a mix of position drills, 7-on-7, and scrimmaging between the team. The action will begin at 1 o'clock. Individual drills get going there. Scrimmage begins at approximately 1:30. If you can't make it, the game will be streamed at no cost on GoYotes.com/watch. All sorts of info there as well. GoYotes.com if you plan on making the trip down or over to Vermilion. South Dakota women's basketball coach Kayla Kari is pleased to announce the signing of Ava Cassette to a national letter of intent. Combo guard out of Maple Grove, Minnesota. Cassette was an all-Northwest Suburban Conference selection, averaged over 10 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals per game during her senior season at Maple Grove High School. And again, multi-sport athlete, joins USD Coyote women's basketball. More on that, GoYotes.com. South Dakota State will attempt to make up ground in the Summit League baseball race as they play host to League leading St. Thomas in a very important 3-game weekend series. The series gets underway 3 o'clock today at Irv Huther Field. Games Saturday and Sunday are slated for 1 o'clock start times, and all 3 games will be available for viewing through the Summit League Network, powered by Midco Sports Plus. Jackrabbits are 15-19 overall, record of 7-7 within the conference. They welcome in St. Thomas. St. Thomas 8-3 in league play, 13-14 overall. Updates for Jackrabbit Baseball, of course, available on Twitter at GoJacksBaseball and through GoJacks.com. Augustana men's basketball is their new head basketball coach. We know that, Cody Schilling. They've got their new assistant coaches, though, as they've made 2 hires, Colton Kuima and Cade Stackpool as the team's assistant coaches. Kuima comes to Augustana from his alma mater of Northwestern College of Iowa, where he helped lead the Red Raiders to a 66-29 record and 3 NAIA national tournament appearances in his 3 seasons. As for the other coach, Stackpool, a former graduate of Augie men's basketball, spent the last 5 years coaching at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. During his time with the Blue Golds, the team won over 60 games, including 2 conference semifinals and conference championship appearances. Welcome to town. Welcome back to town. The new assistant coaches for Augustana men's basketball, Colton Kuima and Cade Stackpool. Big news for former Iowa State quarterback Hunter Deckers. He has his remaining NCAA eligibility revoked in the past after being charged in the state's investigation into sports wagering among college athletes, and is now enrolled at Iowa Western Community College. Deckers, who started for Iowa State back in 2022, was among a group of athletes from Iowa State and University of Iowa who pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of underage gambling back in September. As part of their plea deal, they received a fine and no other penalties. The group initially faced an aggravated misdemeanor charge of tampering with records that carried a maximum penalty of 2 years in prison. Deckers left the Iowa State program after being charged back in August while continuing to take online classes from home. He told ESPN that the NCAA denied his final years of eligibility because of a single $15 bet placed on Iowa State football back in 2021, a game in which he played as the backup quarterback that was linked to his account. Deckers appealed the NCAA's initial decision and received a final ruling in late February. So Deckers continuing his college football career in the JUCO level with Iowa Western Community College down in Council Bluffs. Lastly here, the NHL made it official yesterday. They're moving the team, now formerly known as the Arizona Coyotes, to Utah to begin play as a new franchise next season. The league announced this officially yesterday. Ryan and Ashley Smith are the new owners. They bought the team and its existing hockey assets for $1.2 billion from Alex Marullo. The Smiths, who also own the NBA's Utah Jazz, initially built a relationship with Commissioner Gary Bettman because they wanted an expansion franchise, but Arizona became available due to all sorts of issues down in the desert arena otherwise, and now Arizona moving up north to Salt Lake City. Those are your Reliabank headlines of the day. When we come back, it's a big news dump from the college sports world. Men's basketball, women's basketball, college football, and more. It's all on the way next on the Friday edition of Overtime.
It's so convenient. Sports on the go. Download the free app now. This is ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you. It is the Friday week-ending edition of Overtime. Hope everybody's geared up for another great weekend here in and around the Sioux Empire. Again, thanks so much for listening. You miss any of the show week in and week out, an hour here, half hour there. Podcast links always available for free at ESPNSiouxFalls.com or for free on your mobile device via the ESPN Sioux Falls app. Now let's talk some college sports news where it has gotten really wild in terms of the transfer portal, both in college football and college basketball. First things first, updates from the defending national champion. UConn forward Alex Caravan announced yesterday that he is declared for the NBA draft while retaining his college eligibility. The 6'8" sophomore averaged 13 points, 5 rebounds this season in helping UConn to its second straight NCAA title. He joined 7'2" center Donovan Clingan in declaring for the draft and Stephon Castle also declaring for the NBA draft, playing an immense part in the national championship run. UConn freshman Stephon Castle entering the draft. He told ESPN as of this morning, Castle number 9 on ESPN's list of top 100 prospects, is one of the fastest rising players on NBA draft boards and is expected to push toward the top of the lottery with the momentum of a dominant performance in the Huskies NCAA title season. And bad continues to turn to worse for the Wisconsin Badgers. Not only does one of their marquee transfers out have a new home, A.J. Storr, a guy who's transferred all over the place, recently was with Wisconsin, is now heading to join Zeke Mayo, Bill Self, and the Kansas Jayhawks. Storr chose the Jayhawks over a list of suitors that also included Illinois and Arkansas. With great excitement and humility, I announced my commitment to the University of Kansas basketball program. Joining the Jayhawks is a dream realized, and I'm incredibly honored for this opportunity to be a part of the tradition and culture of Kansas basketball. Now, Wisconsin. I love the Badgers. Grew up for a time in Madison. They've always been my team in men's college basketball. But I got to tell you, of all the sports movies, Moneyball hits so close to home in a big number of ways these days. There's so many great one-liners, so many great moments of that movie. But one specifically came to mind for me in terms of Wisconsin basketball and a slew of other programs. You know who I'm talking about. Iowa comes to mind. Those programs that, quote, did it the right way 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They developed the guys from freshman to senior to super senior. They played slow ball. They played experienced basketball. They were a force to be reckoned with. But now the game has changed. And as Brad Pitt says, in front of those scouts that are at the table with their eyeglasses, with their dip cups and everything else, that are ancient guys, 70, 80, 90-year-old scouts of baseball. We've always done it this way. Why would we change? He claps his hands and says, adapt or die. And that is what's coming to Wisconsin basketball. That's what's coming to any program that is currently stuck in the mud even a little bit, not investing in NIL, not investing in the transfer portal, because Wisconsin basketball right now is entering next year as we sit here today after losing 4 of their top 7 scorers from last year because, I failed to mention Chucky Hepburn, the face of the program. The reason the Badgers single-handedly won a couple games over the last few years was Chucky Hepburn, what he was able to do, the floor general, the heartbeat of the team. He's also in the transfer portal. Things are taking a bad turn out in Madison for the men's basketball program. Adapt or die. Might be too late for Wisconsin to have any semblance of a competitive program in the next 5 years in college basketball. Now quickly through the rest of the news from college sports. Arizona State freshman quarterback can't make up his mind. Jaden Rashada set to enter the transfer portal again. His agent Henry Organ of Disruptive Sports told ESPN on Thursday Rashada appeared in 3 games for the Sun Devils last fall, passed for 485 yards with 4 touchdowns against 3 picks. ESPN's number 31 overall recruit back in 2023, initially signed with Florida, was released from his letter of intent after a $13 million NIL agreement fell through with Florida's Gator Collective. Then he moved on and went to play for Arizona State, played in 3 games, appeared in 3 games. Back in the portal, Jaden Rashada looking for a new home in college football. Lastly, 14 Colorado players have entered the transfer portal this week, and CU Buffalo's head coach Deion Sanders downplayed the notion that their departures will have a significant impact on the team. Sanders said, "We're good. I trust the recruiting team. I trust our coaches, and please have some faith in me." Sanders said Thursday, "We good. We all right. We are all right." Sanders said most of the movement in the transfer portal consisted of backups that he believed it's rare for starters to enter the portal at this stage. I think we got some starting caliber players coming in from visits pretty soon, maybe even this weekend, but we can attract those type of players. I don't think we're losing those type of players, and if we do, we're good. We're good. We're not making a big deal out of anything. 14 transfers out in 1 week. Something's either really good there in CU in terms of the product on the field, that these guys are getting discouraged and they're saying, hey, I'm getting the heck out of here. Or it might be the opposite. Maybe there's some sort of weird strife within the program there. Again, too early to speculate. Got to trust Coach Prime and the resume. But it feels odd. 14 players in 1 week transferring out of Colorado Buffalo football. That's the latest there. It's baseball talk next. College and Major League Baseball. Wayne McDonnell Jr. joins us next on the ESPN Hotline on this Friday edition of Overtime.
action. College hoops and the NFL and Major League Baseball. It's all here on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you on this Friday edition of Overtime. It's time to talk baseball. College baseball coming down the home stretch of the regular season. Still a tremendous amount of baseball left there. We'll touch on that in a moment. Major League Baseball rolling on through this very early portion of the season. Minnesota Twins, though, in a little bit of a slump. 6-11 to start. Not a whole lot of offense to be had for Minnesota to start the year. Back in action as of today. Tigers visiting the Twins. 6:30 pregame, 7:10 the start time. You can listen, as always, right here along the Minnesota Twins radio network. One of our favorites and one of our favorites in the sport of baseball analysis, Wayne McDonnell Jr. of Forbes joins us right now on the ESPN hotline. Wayne, my friend, I hope it's sunshiny where you are. It feels like a good time of year. How you doing?
It's a great time of year, my friend, and the sun is shining, and we have a lot of baseball to talk about.
Yes, we do, and I know that your North Carolina Tar Heels playing pretty darn well. They're in the rankings as the 6th-ranked team in college baseball. Want to start in the major leagues, though, as injuries galore across the league, all sorts of dings and dents, depending upon your favorite team. Minnesota Twins are not an exception to that rule to start the year. What do you make of the start of the season that has been riddled with injuries across the league?
Well, I think what's happening is there's a lot of noise about these injuries, but it's really almost commonplace in the fact across sports in general, particularly baseball. But in the case of the Twins, you're dealing with Carlos Correa, and you're dealing with that intercostal strain. You're dealing with Royce Lewis with a quad strain. And those are areas of concern because it's adversely affected how the Twins have started the season so far. And, I'm not one to set off alarms before Memorial Day, but you might have to start to do that with the Twins just due to the proliferation of injuries that they're experiencing.
And definitely it's an interesting start for Minnesota. A lot of fans concerned. But as you taught me last year and the years prior, hey, don't talk to me about a good season, a bad season, a good start, a bad start till after the Memorial Day holiday. So I'll keep that in perspective as we're talking with Wayne McDonnell Jr. of Forbes. When you look at the Mets and the Yankees, you got to be decently, pleasantly surprised with both of their starts, right?
Oh, yes. And it goes back to my personal rule, 200 plate appearances Memorial Day or 10 starts for a pitcher. But, there's some good energy there. I think it's fair to say within the first couple of weeks of the season, the Juan Soto experiment is working. I think people are realizing how patient and disciplined of a hitter he is and how complete of a ball player he is as well. So much so that the rumors have already started that, next season, Pete Alonso will be playing first base for the Yankees and Juan Soto is going to be playing outfield for the Mets. But only in New York it's not going to happen. But I think there are cautious expectations for both teams, given where they stand. But, it's early, but it's a fun early for both ball clubs.
New York Mets right now third in the NL East with a record of 10-8, 2.5 games back of the division-leading Braves. For the Yankees, they are the top team in the AL East. That was an insanely competitive division last year. Feels like that way again this year as the Red Sox, the worst team right now, 10-10 in the cellar, just 3.5 games back of those Yankees. Let's talk a little bit about the AL Central because we talked Twins, talked about the injury and a sluggish start, particularly on the offensive side. But I got to get your perspective. You cover baseball from coast to coast, Wayne. When it comes to the Guardians and the Royals that are out to good starts right there neck and neck for the top of the AL Central, which team do you think baseball nationally is taking more seriously this year, Cleveland or Kansas City?
Well, that's a great question. I think this past weekend, you had the Guardians play the Yankees. Everyone kept on saying, well, this is the big litmus test for the Guardians. Well, yes, they dropped 2 out of 3, but that last game in the series where the Guardians, beat the Yankees in extra innings, that was really a gut check ball game, and they passed that test. But there's something to me about the Royals. Maybe it's Bobby Witt Jr., and also they spent some money this offseason. I like the Royals probably a little more in the AL Central right now, but you have to be impressed with what the Guardians are doing. New manager, it's the post Terry Francona era in Cleveland, They don't have, the mega stars like in bunches. They have a couple, but I thought it was an interesting way to look at last weekend where they used that Yankee series as a measuring stick very early on in the season.
Wayne, let me ask you lastly on Major League Baseball, because I know you cover it coast to coast, as we just said. We talked about the teams local to here. We talked about the Mets and the Yankees out in your neck of the woods originally. Let's talk about a team, good or bad or indifferent, that has kind of been intriguing for you this year. Is there a team that you're finding yourself enjoying watching for good or bad reasons, whether you're rooting against the Astros or rooting against a team like the Diamondbacks, or if you're rooting for a young team? Is there a team that comes to mind?
Well, for me, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers. Yeah. I think there's that curiosity factor. Well, first and foremost, Mookie Betts. If Mookie Betts is not the best player in baseball, he's on that very short list.
Oh, yeah.
If I had to buy a ticket to watch a baseball game, I want to watch Mookie Betts play. Going into the season, all the questions about him playing shortstop, making the move from right field to second base, now the shortstop. The man is a dynamo, and he is a superstar amongst the galaxy of superstars in Los Angeles. So I'm enjoying that. I'm disappointed in the White Sox, just for the fact that, the Chicago White Sox fans are very loyal. They deserve better. So from that perspective, from a fan perspective, I look at it there. Brewers are always interesting.
Yep.
When you look at it from that perspective. New transition in leadership there as well. But I would say, besides looking at the Yankees very closely, I would say the Dodgers are the next team I'm really paying a lot of attention to, and some late nights watching baseball.
Wayne McDonnell Jr. of Forbes, our guest here on this Friday edition of Overtime. Lastly, Wayne, your most recent article has to do with elbow injuries, long-term concerns for Major League Baseball, as well as kind of that disturbing trend at the Major League level. Tell us a little bit more about that write-up.
Well, there's a big concern across all levels of baseball right now. As you know, I'm seeing players at the high school, college level, and pro level, and with great regularity, I'm seeing pitchers at both levels with those scars on their elbows, the ulnar collateral ligament surgery. And the union had come out and talked about that it's the pitch clock. It's not the pitch clock. The problem starts at youth baseball. It starts at the specialization early on, the pressure from parents, not allowing the young athletes to be multi-sport athletes, and allowing them to have the choice when they get to high school. Because we're just seeing too much pressure put on revolutions per minute, velocity on fastballs, and at some point, and the analogy I use, it's like a rubber band.
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to snap, and I'm just very worried. And my big worry right now is a pitcher like Paul Skeens. He's dynamic. He's extraordinary. He's the future of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Last night alone, he pitched 3 1/3 innings, and 34 of the 43 pitches he threw were over 100 miles an hour. So I'm a little concerned with that, but it's a problem that begins at the youth level. Don't think it's a major league problem. It starts in your local little leagues and recreation leagues and your summer travel ball. That's where the problem begins with the elbow injuries.
Great sports-related articles always, penned by Wayne McDonnell Jr. of Forbes, Forbes.com, the place to find that article and more. As we move into college baseball, I got a question for you. Let's cut up a little bit here. I got a friend that's a broadcaster for Tulane baseball. He used to be over at East Carolina. He's been all over calling baseball games, and recently had what he says is his first opportunity to catch a foul ball in the broadcast booth. Of course, it went off his hands, could not make the catch. Have you had that opportunity, and did you make the most of it, Wayne?
No, haven't had it yet. But the other night in the North Carolina Coastal Carolina game, one came up close, but we now have the netting at Boschmer Stadium.
Gotcha.
So there is the protection. And also, too, there's a lot of very expensive television equipment, so they're going to make sure the netting is there. But no, I haven't had that opportunity yet. but just because of the construction and the design of the netting at Boschman Stadium.
Hey, they're protecting you, but also they know that you'll catch it regardless, Wayne. I know that much. College baseball, top 5, Clemson, Texas A&M, Kentucky, Arkansas, Florida State. As always, right now, dominated in that southeast portion of the country, although there's a couple West Coast teams in the top 25. Even Nebraska's in the top 25 for baseball. North Carolina, number 6. ECU, a team that you're a noted fan of this year, at number 8. Let us in on the lowdown as we gear it up for this final stretch run. The regular season coming to a close in about a month.
So I saw Coastal Carolina this week when they came to North Carolina, and they actually stopped North Carolina's 27-game home winning streak. And I was impressed. When I spoke to Coach Gilmore, he kind of downplayed the talent on his team, and they're like 19th in the country right now. So I'm big on ECU being a dark horse this year. Don't sleep on Coastal Carolina either. But the one thing that I'm noticing, and Bert, we talk about this every year about this point in time, the SEC and the ACC, there are days I think it's better than Major League Baseball.
Yep.
The talent, the competition, the quality. North Carolina's playing North Carolina State this weekend. Just great rivalries. But right now in the top 15, 11 of the schools come from the SEC and the ACC. And that's flat out dominance. And don't be surprised, this will be my bold prediction, that anywhere between 8 to 10 teams come out of the ACC when the field of 64 is released in about a month.
Wow. It's going to be a fun finish. And also, since the time that I prepped for the show, wrote down that top 25, we got a new one. It's Texas A&M, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Oregon State. And unfortunately for you Nebraska Cornhusker fans, out of the rankings after a 23rd ranking last week, out of the rankings this week for Husker baseball. Wayne, before we let you go, always love your sports take in baseball, but also about football. Jets and Giants, what are you feeling like for the NFL draft coming up next week? Either of those teams draft a quarterback, and if not, where do they go?
So we joked about this last time, but I'm very serious about this. As a devout New York Giants fan for my entire life, I just hope to God they can trade up to the 3rd spot and draft Drake May. But that's not going to happen because that would actually make sense for Giants fans. Yeah. But really, the reality is with the 6th pick, they need help on everything. So I wouldn't be surprised to see at least a wide receiver selected with that pick. And the next person I would like to see wearing, the Giants uniform is Marvin Harrison Jr., but we know he's not going to drop below 5.
Yeah,
and the Jets, I think that they just need more weapons for Aaron Rodgers. But from a Giants fan perspective, the dream would be Drake May. The second dream would be Marvin Harrison Jr., but the reality would probably be some other type of wide receiver at the 6th hole.
Before we let you go, Wayne, just to piggyback, because we're talking Aaron Rodgers, talking Daniel Jones, if you had to rate those guys based on popularity right now in town, what's the average popularity? What's the average person thinking about both of those quarterbacks in town? Because Daniel Jones can't be all that popular, and Aaron Rodgers polarizing, interesting off the field. Where do those two stand right now in the Big Apple?
Well, the funny thing about Daniel Jones, a very nice young man, class act, but the injuries hurt the reputation because Giant fans got so accustomed to Eli Manning never missing the start.
Yeah.
He was always there, regardless of the interceptions and the performance. He always was there to take the snap in center. And so I think there is disappointment and curiosity because, Giant fans got spoiled with Eli Manning. With Aaron Rodgers, it's an enigma wrapped in a riddle, to be honest with you, because the Hall of Fame pedigree, the talent and everything, but there's a lot that comes with it. And the Jets always have wanted to aspire to greatness, and they swung for the fences on Aaron Rodgers, and we know how last year ended with the injury within 4 plays. But I think right now both fan bases are hoping for high quality drafts, but I think more the Giants are hoping, the fans are hoping that they trade up. And I can tell you one thing they don't want J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah. Yep.
So that would be the Giants fans. But I think for Jets fans, it's weapons for Aaron Rodgers and protection.
Can't wait for that. Again, all sorts of needs for the Giants and the Jets. Jets more likely to be into the postseason this year, but again, that's also up for debate. Wayne, always appreciate the insight. We'll be talking baseball with you again soon, I'm sure. Have a great stretch run of the college baseball season. We'll do it again here soon, my friend.
Hey, best wishes, Bert. Always enjoy speaking with you.
All right, you as well. That's Wayne McDonnell Jr. of Forbes, Forbes.com. That latest article dealing with elbow injuries, not just in Major League Baseball, college baseball, all the way down to youngsters taking their first steps up to the plate and first pitches of their careers. It's an interesting debate, an interesting future for baseball in terms of elbow injuries. And that big write-up available, Forbes.com, Wayne McDonnell Jr., our guest. Always great insight into baseball and the general sports world. We'll talk football coming up next. Speaking of those Jets, they're one of our two teams we're previewing today for our NFL draft previews. The other is the Chicago Bears. Used to be such a force, lately not so much. Can the Bears hit a home run in this year's NFL draft? What they need to do, what they should do, coming up next on Overtime.
The best sporting matchups and coverage. We are ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Back with you. It's the Friday edition of Overtime. It looks like a beautiful weekend is on the way. A little cooler than last weekend, but nonetheless, we will take the sun, go out, play some golf, have some fun, and soak up the NBA, NHL start of postseason. We'll make my picks later on in hour number 2. But for now, let's talk about the National Football League and the draft that's coming up next week. The Washington Commanders have the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and as very Commander style would suggest, they still don't yet know which quarterback they're going to select in next week's draft. They do, however, know when he'll be picked at number 2 overall. Commanders general manager Adam Peters said they're not going to move down in the first round. We feel great about staying at number 2, Peters said. I don't see a whole lot of scenarios where we trade down. The Commanders have shown interest in multiple quarterbacks throughout the process, hosting 4 of them on a visit Tuesday night and Wednesday. Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, and Michael Penix Jr. Of that group, Daniels and May have been the ones most mentioned for the second pick. McCarthy also could go in the top 5. Penix not expected to go that high, but certainly stranger things have happened. Peter said they have not yet settled on which quarterback they'll take. He also said that there'll be a debrief as a staff on their top 30 visits and discuss the players involved. They'll also go over any lingering medical questions about any player they might draft. Peter saying as of yesterday, we are really close. Coach Quinn and I will huddle up and we'll probably have an answer sometime next week. Let's hope so. You should have had an answer leading up, assuming the Bears, you know exactly where they're going. I assume that they do. You should have your answer in due time. You should be infatuated and in love with whatever quarterback you take at number 2. If you're not, if you aren't in love with any of the quarterbacks, trade down. It's as simple as that. You don't have to make a pick if you aren't in love with the player, especially at number 2 overall. You got to have a concrete decision. Not inspiring confidence right now out there in D.C. But again, you got to appreciate them being thorough at the least. The Denver Broncos reportedly will be thorough as well. They would love to find their long-term solution at quarterback in the first round of the draft, but the team's decision makers said on Thursday that they won't, quote-unquote, force it. The Broncos, who released Russell Wilson earlier this year, have not signed a quarterback in free agency, have the 12th pick of the first round, and general manager George Paton said he has already received interest from multiple teams about either moving up in the first round or moving down. Paton said, one thing we know, we're going to get a really good player at 12. We've had teams called to move up. We've had teams called to move back. We have flexibility, but we do know at 12, if we stand pat, we'll get a really good player. The Broncos right now have Jarrett Stidham as their starting quarterback, and that is it. That is all. We will wait and see, but the Broncos need a quarterback, whether it's not a top first-round guy, second-round guy, or maybe somebody like Spencer Rattler or Michael Pratt later on. Those guys are even more of dart throws in rounds 3, 4, 5. we'll wait to see what happens, but I would bet that the Broncos are in line to land either Penix or Bo Nix in the first round, depending upon where they go. Nix should and could very well be there at number 12. I would bet that he would, but we'll wait and see. Penix is right there with that 12-13 spot that belongs to another quarterback-needy team in the Las Vegas Raiders. We previewed the Raiders and Broncos yesterday, and up to the plate today for our NFL draft previews. Pick number 10. Number 11 belongs to the Vikings. We already previewed them back at number 23, so we're into the top 10. New York Jets at 10. Chicago Bears at number 9. That's their second pick of the first round. Jets own 7 overall picks in this year's draft. 1 in the first. They don't have a second. That went to Green Bay in exchange for Aaron Rodgers. They've got a third rounder, 2 in the fourth, a sixth, and 2 in the seventh this year for the New York Jets. Biggest needs for the Jets: tackle, wide receiver, tight end, safety, and maybe, just maybe, a quarterback. I don't think they should spend a quarterback or draft a quarterback in the first round. I really don't. I think the Jets need to bring in somebody that has the opportunity to grow. Maybe Jordan Travis would be a great fit in New York. He's dinged up, needs some time to learn, to grow, to develop into the pro game, and he'll have that time behind Aaron Rodgers, assuming Rodgers stays healthy. Maybe it's a developmental quarterback for the New York Jets. They certainly have a need there with the uncertainty moving forward with Rodgers' age, his desire, and, of course, the injury history. The best available tackle certainly makes sense for the Jets, although they do have a stopgap now if they brought in Tyron Smith recently in free agency. At safety, maybe a second or third round guy makes sense for the New York Jets, but the first round for New York is very polarizing and interesting because most people would say if you're a old head, if you're somebody that believes in protecting your quarterback more so than anything, draft protection from Rodgers, get one of these top tackles. They're going to be worth it in the long run. The long run's great, but the New York Jets aren't playing long run football right now. They're playing win now football, and you should be excited about that. So that's why I personally believe the New York Jets will go wide receiver or tight end in the first round of this year's draft. Those are my picks in the top. Of course, the only tight end in the first round, Brock Bowers. Wide receiver, Rome Odunze, if he falls to them at number 10. Run that card up to the podium. Get him from Washington. Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU makes sense. We'll wait and see. But the Jets, I think, will go after some playmakers in round number 1. The Bears, despite how rich they are, they own 2 picks in the top 10. They only have 4 picks in the entire draft this year, 2 in the first, a third, and a fourth. Quarterback, Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. But at number 9, my big highlight and underline here for Chicago is trade down. You can get great value. You can get a great player at number 9. But you can also get a great value, great player at number 12, number 15, number 17, number 20, and stockpile some more assets for this year and next. You only have 4 picks this year on a roster that is not ready to compete as a playoff team. They're close. They won 7 games last year. They're close, but they still need really high-quality talent and to build towards the future. It's very rare you get a rookie quarterback going on a deep playoff run. Caleb Williams could be that guy. I'm not saying he's not going to be, but if you want to build progressively towards the moment that you get to the playoffs with Caleb Williams, with DJ Moore, with Keenan Allen, and all the guys they've stockpiled, maybe trading down is the best option at number 9. Otherwise, best available tackle, Dallas Turner, the edge rusher, or at defensive tackle, welcome to Chicago, maybe, just maybe, Byron Murphy of Texas. Those are our draft previews for today. Coming up to lead off next week, we're into the top 10, people. We're going to get you pick number 8 and pick number 7, the Atlanta Falcons and the Tennessee Titans on the Monday edition of the show. But now is the time to win and win big. I told you I got a 4-pack of LFA MMA tickets up for grabs in today's High Noon Showdown. The time is now to call 605-362-3776. I'll take caller 1 and caller number 3. LFA MMA rolls into town next Friday night at the Sanford Pentagon. You want to go? I'll hook you up, but you got to beat up your neighbor in a very nice way. 605-362-3776. Caller 1, caller 3. Duke it out next on Overtime.
In the lawn mowing world, neglected lawns are considered especially disgusting.